I was never trapped in my own house.
Yeah.
And so I was always out and I was always doing things during the pandemic, and so I was actually busier professionally in my day job than I ever was. So that's one reason I didn't find time to write.
No. I actually don't see. I've said this. I don't know if you notice. I've mentioned it a few times on my podcast.
I appreciate it.
Yes. But what I say about you is you're one of the most honest people. Like a lot of people. I put writers in like 3 different categories. Writing for a passion or a hobby passion. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it.
You're what I call the second category. You don't want to make some money at it. It's not your priority. Your family's your priority, right? Which is so I call this the priority category. Right? Writing may not be your number one priority. That's okay, right? So that's category 2. Then there's category 3, which is trying to turn it into a living. Now, for category 3, right? I have a very different standard than I'd have for you over categories 1 or 2. I think the important thing is what I tell everybody, and I'm advertising this right now when I do my freelancing presentation. I'm going to say this. I have to joke. There's 3 categories of writing. If you're 1 and 2, you may not get a whole lot. 2, you might get something out of this, but this isn't really for you. It's for people that want to be through.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's people that want to be through. 1 and 2, because all you gotta tell me is, listen, man, my family's more important than this. There's really nothing I can say to you. Right?
That's right.
But that's honest, right? That's an honest assessment of like where you stand and what you do. It's like, I love this, but I love my family more, and I want to make sure they provide me and taken care of.
It's true. I think it was the fact that I came to this so late. I didn't start being a writer. I didn't start being your category 2 until 7 years ago. I just celebrated my 7-year anniversary of my writing world. So I wanted to make sure that I went into everything realistically, but also be completely honest. I was a father of 2. Yeah. Like I've said before, I had the mortgage and the wife and the car and the kids and the dog and all the rest of that stuff. And I love all of those things. And I love
The dog too?
I love my dog.
Yeah.
I didn't, when we first got him, I didn't want a dog at that time, but the house is a democracy and it's 3-1. So
you gotta have both.
Yeah. Like it was because things were so busy. I say it was a COVID dog, but it wasn't. We had planned to get the dog before COVID ever hit. It was just a waiting list to get the dog.
It kind of like people were looking for something to do, and it was so yeah. No,
it was nice that we got it during COVID, but it wasn't meant to be a COVID dog. But
it started there.
Yeah.
It was but no, it's just like the dog too. It's like so a white picket fence.
No,
Yeah,
I don't even have a front yard. I have a big backyard. I live on a corner, so
I prefer that front yard to a ditch.
yeah, what's a front yard for? Nothing. I meet with my friends and neighbors on the driveway, and we hang out in the garage. Right? Like,
yeah. Well, again, just the way we like, if we were doing something with the front yard, that'd be one thing. But if you're not, it's decoration. It's fucking decorations.
I don't need it.
Yeah.
No, I got some trees and a tiny garden, and then that's it.
And that's all. That's what you need.
My backyard's huge.
Yeah.
I can like play baseball and let the kids run around and play with the dog.
See, I agree with that philosophy. If I were to get a house, it would be, I don't care about the front yard, I don't care about the front.
When I was growing up, and I had like a typical house when I was back in Brampton, and it had the front yard and it had the backyard, and I would mow it, and I'd be like, we've never used this front yard for anything, anything, ever.
No, it's dumb. Like I know. So for me, it was Marshall, Ontario. This little town has all these little tiny freaking yards. So what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah. Ours was old. Ours was a 1950s home. So a little bit bigger plot of land.
But see, ultimately the same thing. But what the fuck am I supposed to do?
What am I supposed to do with that? I'd rather just move forward a little bit more, so I'd have less driveway to shovel, and then I'd have more backyard.
Yeah,
and I'd have more fun back there.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. You don't feel so bad. You don't feel bad, folks, having a big giant pile of snow to actually play King of the Mountain on in your backyard.
Yeah.
In your front yard, it's frowned upon. In your backyard, no one cares.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes. Not saying anything about my childhood either. Digress.
But yeah, so back to what you're saying, I just wanted to keep all those parts of my life the same. I didn't want to change them all. And if I could fit some writing into it, and I could fit the writing world into it, then that's what I was going. And if I couldn't, I didn't feel bad about it.
No.
I didn't. I was just like, I made an attempt, and maybe it's something I can come back to later in life. And I got lucky enough that I've been able to do what I've been able to do.
You're actually really good at it, and you're funny. No, you are genuinely funny. I laugh at yourself. Although I did kind of crush you with my cynicism comment.
No, not really.
You're like, I'm just gonna check out right here right now.
It's in one part it's an act, and another part it is really who I am, right? Like I don't ever want it to be somebody who was going and doing things like this, where I was somebody who would be different than I was when I'm sitting around at home. I want people who know me personally to be like, yeah, that's just an interview with Marc. That's not an interview with Marc, the writer. That's an interview with just
just Marc, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I have always been the asshole, so it has worked out.
Yeah, it's a good, solid strategy in this world these days. It's a good, solid defense mechanism, and it's a good, solid basis for a healthy dose of cynicism.
I think it's that, and folks, just so you know, I think cynicism is the most useless of all emotions. Is the most useless.
And I have built a healthy career out of it.
Yeah, that's right. But that's okay.
That's okay.
No. Listen, life is about how, again, choices are a little bit different. I've been through enough that I realize something positive for me. Positive attitude has gotten me out of tough situations. It works for me. Great, it works for me. Whereas someone, again, it's like, okay, that doesn't mean I don't think that necessarily. I'm not gonna get my ass kicked sometimes. Because sometimes I think, what am I doing? Like there are days you wake up, you're like, I know what I'm doing. And then there are other days you're like, I have no fucking clue what I'm doing. Why am I here?
Yeah. Well, it's like having an imposter syndrome at life.
Well, you just like again, I forget if you're older than me. It's not by much.
I'm 43.
Okay, so yeah, I'm 41. So we're relatively the same age. So you get to that point, I think before you just realize, I really don't know what the fuck's going on. I don't. Yeah, and I don't care either. Like there's a little bit of that in it too. Because you're like, because then you come to this realization. Wait, I can do what I want. That's great. Now sometimes I get you in trouble. Sometimes. Yeah. But for the most part, there's freedom that comes with that. So that's what happened to me when it happened during the pandemic. It's like I stopped giving a shit. But I say it like that because it's like there's a freedom that comes with just knowing who you are and being unapologetic about it.
Let me do this the way I normally do it and bring it back to sports.
Yes.
So
there's nothing wrong with that. I work for the Saddle Dome, by the way.
Yeah.
So sometimes I see all the games, and sometimes I wish I didn't because the Flames aren't that good this year, but that's okay.
Yeah, but at least you're there. At least you can see it. The atmosphere can't be beat.
No, it's awesome.
But that's kind of a macrocosm to what it is you were just talking about. I, for the last 6 years, have been my son's goalie coach, right? And I went into it not knowing anything about being a hockey coach or goalies, but we needed one, and I had the willingness to learn, and I had coached in other sports before, so it was all good. So for the last 6 years, I've been doing that, and it's been fantastic because I've been able to watch my son grow from some of the issues that he had early on to a confident young player and somebody who knows what he's doing and is confident in what he's doing. We originally started getting him into it because he had a passion for hockey, but he was just dealing with all of these things personally, and hockey was a big helper. And now he has come to us before this season even started, which is now actually almost over. He said that I don't want to play next year.
That's fine.
Yeah, he'd be moving up to a new division with a lot of older kids, and last winter he started to take a liking to snowboarding.
Sure.
So he wanted to do snowboarding. In the summer, he was doing downhill mountain biking. There was all these other things that he wanted to do, and he came to me like man to man and was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And now we know that we're in the final days of being a hockey player and a hockey coach. I don't give a shit anymore. Like, if he's just like, I want to try this, or I'm coaching another goalie because there's usually two on the team. So if he's like, what if I was to try this? And I'm like, as long as it doesn't hurt the rest of your team, go nuts, man. Have fun. This isn't like AAA hockey or anything. This is just regular rec hockey.
Yeah.
But it's that same kind of mentality where it's like the clock's running out, and at this point we should just be having fun. And if there's like disagreements within the coach's room, or if there's something going on in the hockey world, I care saying the truth anymore because I've made my friends that I've made there, and they're going to be great friends. I know they're going to be lifelong friends. But on the other hand, if somebody says something that isn't true or can damage relationships or the experience of a kid, I call them out on it now so much more than I ever used to because I just don't care anymore.
All right, so I want to. Okay, this is a fun little topic to talk into because I get this really unique privilege because I'm working in the warehouse. So basically, yes, I get access to all of this, but beyond that, I'm in the right at the bottom. So I get to watch the players warm up, watch players do their thing. I've met some of them like just doing my job, right? Now I'm at that point. I've interviewed enough people. I don't get like starstruck anymore,
for sure.
Right? But again, it's sometimes you just meet them in passing and you see what they're doing. To get to that level takes a certain dedication. Like there's not a lot of spots for that. But I will say, watching sports and getting to watch a season of the Flames, the Hitmen, the Wranglers, all these guys, like they do a lot of the same things artists do. In the sense that it's the discipline, the training, the practice, I know like some of my author friends listen to this, my background in sports. The truth is, they're just like you in just about every single way.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And the let's just call it the cult of celebrity.
Yeah.
That I have met in the past. I'm much the same. Usually, if I do meet somebody and it's somebody that I really respect, all I really want to do is shake their hand and say thank you for being awesome and doing that thing you do. But most of the time, you just let them go about their business because that's all they ever wanted. They found a way to become passionate and become excellent at something that puts them in the public eye.
Yep.
That's not necessarily their fault. And maybe they sought that, but most of the ones that I meet didn't. They just wanted to do what they wanted to do.
I've learned the success, like the six, like, and I say this because I've got awards, not just for the podcast, but even for they're byproducts. They're byproducts. They're not. They shouldn't be your goal, right? What they should like. Okay, so going back to like the kid, right? I think sports or arts, I could either way, whichever the kid is most passionate about, are great ways to build discipline and confidence. Those are two essential skills. Whatever you do in life, you need both of those skills. Both of them. You need the confidence to be able to believe you can do it, and the discipline to be able to go day in and day out and graduate through it. You do, right? Yeah. If for no other reason of that, that's a great reason to get kids. Also, getting out in the community, with friends. There's a lot of good, like, another thing that I just described there, by the way, has to do with making a career.
No, those are life skills, man. That's like learning how to swim.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just a thing you kind of got to do. You got to figure it out if you want to have success and be happy and satisfied in the personal aspects of your life.
And I think either sports or the arts, I know I'm using both here, right? Either or, they're great ways to learn. And people that are great in athletes or excel in athletics, they do great in the arts usually. Because again, mentally, they're not that different, right?
Yeah.
They're not that different. And it's understanding what your art forms are. I interviewed a pop singer when she was 15, now she's in her 20s, and she's still like her whole mentality is that of an athlete, right? She goes in there, she does prep, she performs because of her athletic background. It gives her such a huge edge in discipline and confidence. And I think that might be the best argument. Like whatever you choose to do, if you want to get kids involved, whether it's drama, whether it's hockey, whether it's baseball, that's the reason why you should. Not because they might make money doing this.
No, that's never been it for me. It was always a confidence thing.
Yeah.
At least for my one son, it always was. And conversely, for my younger son, he never really got into those things, but his creativity comes out in a lot of other ways because he's a born and bred engineer. So I almost see it like he is a creative in that he will take things apart and he will make them, and he imagines things and he will create them from scratch or design
it's
them.
Still art.
It's still art. It's just art of the mechanical.
It's just his art in terms of practicality. It's more problem solving. Like his art deals with solving problems specifically.
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's not.
Yeah. Like as an example, so at my house we've got a sliding door in the back that heads towards the back deck. And when it gets really cold, like when it gets like that -30 and below, it freezes up. And we could not stop, we couldn't figure it out or whatever. But there's a vent that's right beside it. And I'm like, hey man, can you just try and figure out a way to just take that hot air that's coming out, pump that, and just like create a device that. So I give him a problem, right? So like, this is what it is that he has to solve, and he comes back with very simple, very basic. It's just like a box with like tubes coming out of it, but it solved the problem. And so could I come up with that on my own? Yeah, probably, but it seemed like some kind of thing that he could excel at and that he could do, and then that's the kind of encouragement that I want to give him. And
he did.
He built a door defrosting box,
which is awesome because I have no clue how to do that.
I didn't have like a plan. I didn't like set him in the right direction. I was just like, here's the problem. Here's kind of what I'm thinking. What can you do about it? And he's like, okay. And then he goes off and he does his thing, and then he comes back. Well, great.
So when your son designs like a rocket ship going to Mars in 20 years, I mean,
I think about my two kids because the one is the sports, more orientated, athletic one, and the other one's the more mechanical, hands-on kind of one. Still enjoys like getting outdoors and stuff, but not to the same level. And at that same time that I keep thinking, like, I wanted to have realistic expectations for my older son. Like, if he picked a sport or picked an activity and excelled at it and could become something of that upper echelon, then I'm all for it. But really, I want to go back to what you're talking about, having that confidence in it and building up all these other life skills that were going to help him out. And if he had fun and did well at it, great. It's the same with hockey. It's the same with baseball. He always has the potential to do those things, but there was always that kind of mentality of, I don't want to be the dad that's like, you're going to the NHL, you're going to the MLB.
Oh, I've seen. I hate those parents so much.
I have seen that. But on the other hand, I also have to make sure that I temper myself when talking about my other son, because he is so fantastic at doing these things that everybody's all like, oh, he's going to be an engineer, he's going to build things, he's going to do whatever. Maybe he doesn't want to do those things. Maybe these are the things he does now to build up the skills that he needs later in the future.
And that's actually a good way to look at it. So my favorite TED Talk is why you will fail to have a good career. So here's my favorite. So my favorite part is a lot of people, you talk about people why don't achieve their dreams. Right? That's the whole talk. My favorite part is the end. Because people that choose human relationships over their dreams, right? That's not the same thing you did, by the way. So it goes. So this is what's going to happen to you one day. You're going to have your kid come to you one day and go. By the way, he wants to be. Grow up and goes. We've been waiting for this conversation, and he's good at math and he wants to do something. He goes, I want to be a magician. And here's the thing: I will never tell somebody. Like, the one thing I've learned in this life is it doesn't matter what the goal is, it's possible. Now, doesn't mean you're going to do it, not always. No. But are there steps you can do? There are things you can try, there are things you can go for? Absolutely. And I will never tell anybody you can't do it.
No, exactly. And especially when dealing with kids, the whole world is open to them. But on the other hand, I also want to make sure that I don't set that expectation like, oh, this kid's going to be an engineer, this kid's going to play in the major leagues or whatever. That's
not your job. Your job is to give them the tools to do whatever they choose to do.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly. Because the parents that are doing that, if they don't make it to that point, how many times have I read articles and stories about kids who grew up and fell into a depression about the fact that maybe they made it to single A or double A ball, and those major league dreams just never really came true, and then they have nothing else. Like there's there's professional athletes that have nothing to fall back on. It was always just this. This was their singular focus, and now it's over, and they're in their 30s, and they have no other discernible life skills when it comes to trying to provide for themselves.
I slightly disagree with you. I think the foundations are there, but the fact is they've been so focused on that one thing. They've never thought about how to take the skills they've learned and do them in other things. Like here's the thing. I've been freelancing. I fall into category 3 folks. I'm trying to make my creativity a living. Now, I'm not there yet. I've been working on it for 2-3 years. I'm not there yet. I'm still doing side projects. I'm still doing other things. It's closer, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
But a lot of the fundamental skills I have learned starting this had been transferable into everything I've done. I have the confidence to pivot. I have the confidence to move forward, and you need that because, again, my master plan has been already blown up in my face a few times, right? It's part of the process. You're going to fail, and especially when we talk about athletics, right? Like, okay, there's what, maybe 400 jobs in the NHL?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, maybe 400 jobs. And by the way, and I'm not saying that you don't even need the most talented kid to make it into the NHL. You have the right work ethic and willpower, you can get somewhere. But it's first off, it's a short career. Second off, right? Even if you make it, it's a short career. Second off, the road is, again, I get to watch different levels of hockey. Some things are so fundamentally the same on every level, it's unbelievable, right? I think the fact that, and this is something I have watched some of the most famous players in the world play soccer.
They love soccer. Yeah, it's good for the feet and the hand-eye coordination.
Yeah. I've seen that. I've seen it in every game I've seen it. Doesn't matter who it is, they all do it.
No,
right?
I love soccer, which is weird. I hate soccer.
Yeah, but
if I was a professional hockey player, I'd probably.
Well, again, everything's about prep. Like the whole thing about the game is the end of the road. It's not the beginning of the road; it's the end of the road.
Yeah.
Right? Everything else is about. I'll tell you something really cool. I don't know his name. Number 79 when we filled up the Flash. That little handball exercise he did. The most impressive thing, I didn't tell you, it was legit impressive. When he finished the exercise, instead of grabbing the ball and playing it, he actually started juggling. Like he literally broke into a juggle randomly, and just like that's like the hand-eye coordinator. That's impressive too. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But the fact that he stopped and then pivoted into a juggle, it was like
goalies do that. They do that all the time.
But it's amazing. Like it's an amazing thing. But that's the prep. Like that's not including diet training, all that stuff. Like it's a lot of work, and you only got a short amount of time doing it. So, but those things, preparation, discipline, the diligence to go in and out going forward, right? Maybe I think, and I don't know how to actually do this, is dealing with failure. It doesn't matter art or athletics. You're going to fail.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're going to fail. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. And as soon as it happens to me, I'll let you know. It's going to happen one of these days, I swear.
Well, it depends what your goals are, too, right?
Well, I was always, I probably mentioned this before, but I have always tried to keep a lot of my goals incredibly realistic. Not that I don't enjoy shooting for the moon, but if I make them just beyond the capabilities of where I am right now, they act in steps. If I started this writing thing as by the end of this, I'm going to be the next. Whenever a conversation about writing happens, the name Stephen King gets brought up as the.
But whatever. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Right, but is that an achievable goal? Like what we're talking about? Yeah, it is. It's a very similar kind of road. It is the professionals. It is the best of the best. It is one of the 400 that are recognizable. But I set far more realistic goals where I had the famous within my own world one where I only wanted to make enough money in writing to take my family out for a nice dinner, and if there was money left over, maybe dessert. And I did it. And when I put the money together on those first few checks after my first book came out, and we went for Mexican food, which is my favorite, and a restaurant that I like, and it was just the four of us, and it paid for the whole meal, plus fried ice cream for dessert, and a reasonable tip. And I was good. After that point, I knew that I felt so good and so satisfied for so long, and now, as we've gone up from that, I have set other goals, other ones that are just beyond reach, just beyond the skill set that I have right now, but are, when I achieve them, then I just kind of sit there and revel a little bit. And this is kind of how I've done goals all through my life, not just in this world, but professionally in my full-time job. And even when I was younger, the things that I wanted to do, when I was in high school, I wanted to move out west, I wanted to work in a camping store, and I wanted to learn Japanese. And that seems so far away to high school, last year of high school, about to graduate Mark. And then you get out and then you realize that those kinds of things, not that difficult. The moving out west was difficult, but I put a plan in place, and now here I am. And learning Japanese, it was just like, wow, that's a silly thing. And then I did my best. I'm not great, but I wanted to work in a camping store, and I didn't realize how easy it was to just pick a retail
Yeah, no.
Just like,
Sometimes. So that's probably the only downside to the way you do it. Sometimes
it's really easy, but at the times that I was making those choices and trying to set those goals, I didn't know that they were simple, right? And then I get there, it's like, oh, that wasn't that bad. So like making enough money in a writing career to buy a meal, whatever that meal is, maybe it's everybody only gets a pack of Wendy's French fries, and maybe it's everybody gets to go to that fancy one downtown in the sky that I don't remember. But it seemed so impossible when I'm sitting there with a absolutely disgusting manuscript that is just full of problems, and I'm not educated, and I don't know the world. I don't know people like you, and I don't do conversations like this, and I know nothing about the world. To get to the point where I'm like, I made it right. That it seemed so far out, and there you go.
So I mostly agree, but I think every once in a while you really should push, because it's not. Sometimes this is what I've noticed. And this is me going into Kickstarter world, right? Sometimes setting up an elevated expectation actually lets you rise to the occasion. Right. Sometimes, for example, like let's say okay, so I'm going to be doing at some point this year my first Kickstarter. My goal is going to be modest, like 2,000 or 3,000, nothing big, just because I know I'm breaking in and I'm not. It's not low. But once I get like 2 or 3 of them under my belt, I'm gonna be like, okay, this is what I think of. Let's find out.
Yeah.
Well, let's find out. Right now, again, not saying. I don't. Although, if you do it right away, I've done this. I've done it. It's hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
But when you do it, when you actually do it, right? What tends to happen is sometimes you can get your ass kicked. But even in that, there's some really valuable lessons.
Sure.
So, right.
And I'm not saying with all these quote unquote realistic goals that I even have my ass kicked sometimes. Like there's absolutely
no. I'm just saying like that's. What I'm just saying is the only thing I mean is it's not even a big pushback. It's just like every once in a while you owe it to yourself, whatever it is you're into, to find out where you actually stand. And sometimes again you can set the goals. It's like, so how far is my range? Let's go here and see what happens. Right, and that sometimes you need to do that because it shows you increments. Yeah, you should definitely start incrementally. Like that's something about it, right? But there are points in the journey you have to take leaps of faith too. It's a weird thing. That's just something I've learned too. Is like you gotta take those things.
I think that it really depends on the person. You have to know yourself and what it is that motivates you. Because if I set that kind of goal, I lie. I did have that kind of goal when I was younger. When I was 16 years old, and that was when I wrote by hand, with pen and paper, my first quote-unquote book.
I did something very similar.
And I didn't have any dreams of being a writer, but I loved the world, and I was just like, well, this story doesn't exist in the world, so I'm going to create it. And I did, and there was a whole kind of roller coaster story behind that. But I was like, man, it would be great if I could get this published and it could be turned into. I was really big into anime at the time, and like if this could get out there in like the animated world, I'd love to voice the main character. That would be fantastic. And so like I had this dream when I'm like 15, 16 to write this book, get it published, put it in the hands of somebody who can turn it into some kind of animated feature, also learn voice acting, and then voice act the entire thing. So that seems pretty far.
It's a stretch, but sometimes you need to do that. Like every once in a while, you need to do something like that. Right. Just to say you tried, and also to learn.
Right. But conversely, years later, I am now a published author, and I go back and I think about it, and I'm like, well, that didn't quite happen the way it was supposed to. And those books, there was like a trilogy, but they still haven't been written. They still haven't been published. I write in that same world. It's what my Catching Hell books take place in. But I still was able to turn into a writer and get things published in that world. And did I get to like the things getting animated and made? No, I didn't. But I got to the quote-unquote voice acting part because I've done that now too, and I got to record the audiobook for Death Dresses Poorly, which was my first book, and I realized later on, like, it didn't quite go as planned, but I still got to voice act these characters that I wrote.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Like
which
20 years after the fact.
Which is awesome, right?
It was a lofty goal in the first place, and the bar kind of moved a few times, sometimes up, sometimes down, sometimes kind of sideways. But later I was just like, so I don't have that same goal anymore, but I kind of achieved it in a lot of different ways.
That's why you don't have your goal. You kind of did. You kind of did.
And I never felt bad about it. As I got older, I was just like, man, that really was an impossible task. I don't know why I ever would have set that bar. But the world seemed so possible when I was 16 years old.
Well, and I think you need a little bit of that. Again, you're right here. You got a little bit of that little kid in you, and maybe it's like it's impossible. And here's the other crazy thing. Somewhere down the road, one of these big networks might actually discover this has happened. I've seen this, right? They discover your book and it's like, this is fucking cool. We want to do something with it. The next thing I know, Mark's gonna go to me, Josh, I don't know what the fuck happened here, but you were right.
Maybe.
Again, I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but stranger things have happened.
Sure, absolutely. Like, maybe somebody who is working on one of these many different productions that is rolling through Calgary right now goes to the library, picks up my book because it's available right now, right? And they read it, and they're just like, this is perfect. This would make a fantastic movie. Like, I'm drawing an almost impossible scenario, but maybe those kinds of things could happen. And if that happens, I'm just going to say, cool. And
let me put it another way, just put it like this. Demand for intellectual property and content is at an all-time high.
It is. Absolutely.
As an all-time So what tends to happen is, like, a lot of studios create their own stuff. I knew guys that have made a living writing scripts that never get filmed, and to them it's a very
absolutely.
It's a weird kind of hell because you're paid very well to do this, but you never see any of it.
I know a couple of people who kind of fall into that category. Maybe maybe not quite 100% never gets done. There's it's built in, like, that's how much intellectual property is in demand. So I look at, okay, again, I'm looking at the fact that, again, I'm in the Kickstarter realm, see what's going on there. I'm looking at all these other things that are happening. Sometimes it's as simple of showing that you have a following, and if you have a following and you have a good product, I don't know how you show your following, but again, a good product. Sometimes that's all studio needs. Like, okay, let's take a look, see if we can do something like this. All right, and so that might happen someday. Now, it might not be today, but again, you never know where things go, and that's the other thing. And going back to something I said earlier, notice, folks, I'm not saying that this is necessarily a goal, right? This is all byproducts of just doing work day in and day out, relatively, or about, right? That's all this is. And that's all it takes sometimes. It just right place, right time. Yeah, I going back to how this all started. When I started this, I was 36 years old, and I had all of those things that I was talking about, the family and the mortgage and the dog and all that. So I couldn't take those risks. But it was also a fact that I was far more realistic about life. Like, I wasn't so starry-eyed anymore. So when I would go to events like When Words Collide, or when I would talk to other writer types, and I would talk to somebody who's like 21, 22, I'm like, bless their hearts, they are just so full of piss and vinegar. And maybe they are going to get to that point. I'm not going to say that I'm not shooting any of them down, but I might have been like that, but I'm not like that anymore. And I have to use what I am now, which is far more sarcastic and far more cynical, to my advantage.
Yes. And as for me, still a touch starter. I never quite outgrew it, but I've had some very magical experiences in my life, some epic triumphs and some epic failures, right? And that's been my journey.
Yeah, like it's like the song says, everybody's got a story that'll break your heart, right?
Yeah,
like so, everybody's got that.
Yeah, absolutely, and then everybody's
and how they deal with it, and what they allow it to do to them.
But that's why I go on the show. Everybody's got their own perspective on how it works too.
Yeah.
All right, and there are things to learn from everybody, right? Like I said,
I was today at the office. There's a fellow there, who's a friend of mine, who is extremely good at his job. But he's also talked to me before about getting into writing. He's also a creative who wants to do things, and he's asking me about it, and I was just like, no, I'm going to do a bit of a vain thing. I'm going to send you a copy of an article that I wrote years ago about writing goals and that kind of thing, because he's trying to get himself going. He's where I was back in 2016, right? And I read through the article, and the message that I tried to get through to him, and what's in that article is, you could sit down with 100 writers, and this goes for a lot of different people in a lot of different spaces, but we're talking about writing here. So you could sit down with 100 writers and ask them the process of how they made that book, and you're going to get 100 different answers. And not a single one of them is wrong, and it's incredibly likely that you are going to be number 101, because you're going to have a completely different process than all of those that came before you. So you glean a little, you take a little. And in the video that I just released, I say at the end, like we're all going towards the same direction. We're just taking different paths.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the difference between even when you started compared to when you started now is writing, like publishing is just centralized.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yes. Big time.
Right. So there's no one car path anymore. Like that. Like that's the thing. Like there are some people who make a real killing in traditional publishing. Mm-hmm. I've interviewed some of them. They're great. I still see people who are making great killings as indie authors. Great. I don't consider Kickstarter and indie the same thing, right? Just because there are similarities, but there's also some very big differences on what the goals are there. So Kickstarter authors, huge followings, meet people, get like awesome. They all wear them. Traditional publishing, you get more cool awards here and there.
Yeah.
But I guess because in indie, when I did, like, Hour Zero got nominated for an award while I was approved during the pandemic. I was an indie. I wasn't published by anybody but me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not the same world anymore.
No, it's not. And like, as somebody like myself who knew nothing about this world coming into it, other than let's say what Hollywood will have you believe, I never thought that I would independently publish a book, and I never thought necessarily that it could be traditionally published. And then the only one of my books, of the 4 books that I've released, the only one of them that has gone #1 on Amazon is the one that I did myself.
Exactly.
Not to say anything against nothing whatsoever against working with my publishers in the past and working with my publishers going forward. It was just I could eat a big hit on it in some ways and just list it at a reasonable price and market it in my own way in association with other things that were going on. So suddenly, Mark, who knew nothing about it on February 29th, 2016, suddenly has a quote-unquote Amazon bestseller, and it's the one that's from the ground up, other than the editing, which was done by my publisher.
Yes. Which
as a separate job.
And I will say this, folks. I think you should exit. Just
please, God, get it. That was, and going back to that gentleman I was talking to at my office today. He was talking about all the, like so many of us, the dead pile that he's got on a flash drive somewhere of like 75% finished manuscripts, and how he just doesn't really get over it. I'm like, I'm not a big proponent whatsoever of writing goals and trying to get, like, forcing things through, but if you do get it through, don't worry if you're not completely happy with it, because we can create the artwork, but the editors out there can polish it and make it shine.
Well, not only that, I mean, realistically, this is the biggest hurdle for anything. Just finish it.
Just finish it.
Yeah.
If you can.
You know, I had a buddy of mine, I've interviewed him a few times on the podcast, and he comes to me, he's like, we got this story, he's got this like imposter syndrome, right? So I go to him, so what are you afraid of? that you're going to succeed or you're going to fail. Because they're the same fear ultimately, but they're a little different. Fear of failure is fear. They're both fear of change. Fear of failure is fear that nothing's going to change. Fear of success is you don't know where you're going.
Yep.
They're legitimately the same fear, just in different ways. So which one are you afraid of? He goes, okay, so I go, here's your plan, 100 words. Just 100, right? You go, I look at me and he's like, can it be outlined? I said, no, outline doesn't count. None of that bullshit. You're gonna write 100 words every day. None of that bullshit. You can outline, if you need to outline, but it doesn't count. Right? It doesn't count. Because again, what happens is, I like this outline and we're all building that, and what happens is people just wank off on that and I actually write the damn story.
I respectfully disagree.
Okay.
I respectfully disagree because if you gotta force yourself to write it, people are probably gonna have to force themselves to read it.
There's a point though on that, right? Because here's the thing: if you're anxious, okay, it's why you're anxious. There's one thing when you're not ready to tell the story. There's another thing when you're looking for reasons not to tell the story. There's a difference there.
I don't know if there is a difference there because I think that there's something to be said. Like I mentioned in my last video, like whatever 2.5 years we were all like locked indoors and stuff, and I did nothing.
But
nothing. And it was okay.
No. I'm not talking about that though. He has a story he wants to tell. But see, here's the thing. Now, he's telling me he wants to tell it. Now, if you want him to tell it, okay, then you should tell it. I'm not saying you don't world build. I'm not saying you don't plot, but you don't stop it. You actually put pen to paper and see what happens. Get yourself into a momentum groove. Now, if you don't, okay, again, this goes back to something I asked you at the very beginning. Who do you want to be? Now, if you don't want to be the guy, like you want to be the guy that, again, you didn't write for 2.5 years. You didn't want to.
Yeah.
Right? Here's the thing. That's okay. You didn't want to. I can't say shit. That's not what he's saying, though. He's saying he wanted to write this. That's a different argument. Right? If you, again, I'm going to go by what you tell me you want. Now, your actions may tell me otherwise, but I'm going to let your actions do that. I'm going to put you in a position that's like, okay, you want to do this? But you're a little nervous and scared? Fine. This and this. See what you do. Now, if you legitimately can't do it, then he's not ready to do it. And I won't want him. He's going to come to me very honestly and say, I don't want to do this. Kind of, right? There's a difference between I want to do it, but and I don't want to do it. I want to kill the butt.
When I came to the realization that I hadn't really done anything over that time, I also realized that it wasn't because I didn't want to. It was just because life didn't really allow me to, and all the things that go into making me a writer and having motivation to actually get those things out there, it simply wasn't there. And it wasn't there to get things finished, and it wasn't there to do things.
But I would challenge, but that it's not what one that inner desire necessarily that inner desire that I want to do this, but it was more. Again, you just said you had other priorities, and the thing is, and this is the thing, right? Saying that you didn't really want to do it. I'm not saying that you didn't want to write. I'm not saying that. And I say it that way. What I'm saying is, we all have priorities in our life. All of us. Right? And you set some circumstances, whatever those sets and circumstances are, right? That's fine. There's nothing anyone can say about those things. It's like your work's kept you busy. It's a priority. You got to take care of your family. And again, for you, that's number one. Your writing career is not 2, or I don't know if it's 2, I don't know if it's 3, it might be 5, I don't know. But you know that. I don't even, and I don't know.
Never really.
Yeah. And nor does it matter. Like not from my end, right?
Yeah.
Right. What matters is you had priorities and other desires that were more important to you at the time. Not just because of the circumstances, just it was. That's fine. There's no crime in that. That's not what he's. That's not what he's saying.
No. Let's talk about food.
Okay.
I'm going to segue.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Enough. Okay.
All right. I understand that people can get really passionate about something like food because for some people it means a whole lot to them. So I hate tomatoes.
Okay.
I hate tomatoes. I don't like them on my hamburgers. I don't like them.
I actually have a similar dislike to tomatoes. I just don't like the. For me, it's the texture. Just
Right.
for whatever reason, I just don't like the texture of it.
Right. So I know for a fact, in the bottom of my heart, that I hate them. And I know that a lot of people absolutely love them. And they can't have a hamburger without a fat, juicy slice of beefsteak tomato on there or whatever. But it's not that they're right, and it's not that I'm right. It's the fact that we are two different people with two different processes, with two different experiences, with two different sets of taste buds, and two different brains that process things differently. And I feel the same way about this. I know that when I was writing, I was perfectly content with the amount that I was putting out. And then I was putting out nothing, and I didn't really think about the fact that I was putting out nothing until I was done. And then last year, I went gangbusters, and I had a whole ton of things that I wrote, and I was super happy with that. And that trend still continues to right now.
Absolutely.
I'm still writing, still firing up right now. And I found that balance. I found that I was so much happier just allowing those things to happen. And that's the perspective that I'm coming from here. Like, when people start talking about having those writing goals, it's almost like they're force feeding themselves tomatoes to me.
Gotcha.
So like they're like, I know that I don't like this, but it's going to make me healthier, or it's going to be a more balanced part of my diet. And I'm not necessarily saying that they feel that way, but that's kind of how I perceive it. So that's where I'm.
No. And where I'm coming from is, I had this epiphany about 3 or 4 years ago. At the end of the day, everybody does exactly what they want to do, right?
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yep.
So what I am going to do is when I listen to somebody, right? And they tell me they want something, I'm going to, and if they're like, and if they're frustrated with a direction, I'm going to give them that. If they don't necessarily follow it, they're going to get, like, my whole secret goal here is they get comfortable with their own momentum, wherever that is, whatever that goes, wherever that is. They tell me to fuck off, and they got this.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I secretly hope for, because they don't. They're looking in this particular case. The way I read it, they were looking for some kind of permission to get started. So I gave it to them. Right. To me, there's looking at it from the point of view of want, which is where I'm coming at this. I'm going under the assumption of what they told me. They want to work on this. But, right, and I'm trying to eliminate the but so that they can work on this. There is a point, much like you, it's just of course eating tomatoes. I don't want that. What I want is, but again, you're going to come and tell me, I want to do this, but I'm going to listen to your but, and I'm going to offer a solution around your but. And if you're looking for reasons to get around the but, then you're telling me you don't really want to do this, right?
This conversation just took very sexy turn.
Yes. Right, but that's how I look at it. Like, you're going to tell me with your next sentence whether you really want this or not. If you really want this, you'll find a way to do it. If you really don't, you'll find a way not to. And I'm okay with, again, it's not me judging it. It's just like, this is your decision, and I'm going to respect your decision either way, right? The only thing at that point, this is the only thing I get to at this point, is why did you come to me and tell me you wanted it when you didn't?
Yeah. Again, going back to kind of this world, and how we all work in it, and going back to those fresh-faced people, I remember very clearly. Again, stories I've told before, but I love telling them because there's people out there who haven't heard of it. That at that first When Words Collide, and I had my philosophy, and it's everything that I've talked about here, and I would go and I would sit down with other groups of writers, and they would talk about their plan, and then I'd talk about mine, how it's like, no goals, I don't do. I was heavy-handed, I admit. I would be like, goals are kind of
Oh,
stupid. Why are we doing that?
I remember for our first conversation, I confronted you about a couple of those things.
But it's not that I don't believe them. It's just that I've found ways to be a little bit more smooth.
No. But I mean, it just the thing I respected about you, because I know we don't fully agree on everything.
No.
I have gotten it, but you're honest about it. I can respect that. Yeah.
It's the hazard of navigating a world of creatives. I don't think anybody is as passionate about whether it's a hobby or whether it's something they're doing full time as what creatives are. And creatives are, it's a broad swath.
Oh no, it's super broad.
It's super, super broad. But these are the things, like, I'm going to focus on arts specifically. Arts tend to define a person. They allow it to define themselves, whether it's they're defining themselves as an artist or a writer or a singer or a songwriter or a filmmaker or whatever. Like this is something that they feel super passionately about, so they have no problem defining themselves as those kinds of things. So it's always very difficult to kind of tread in those waters because some people have come to the realization that not everybody agrees with them, and I am of that particular persuasion. And there's other people who think that their way is just so absolutely correct that you are wrong, and we are not going to be friends.
No. Again, the thing I most respected about you when we first met, this is a part-time gig for you. And I said, and this is what you said. You told me that up front.
Serious hobby, I believe.
No, actually, you said it. Part-time.
It is part-time, but I'm saying in other circles and times, I consider it a serious hobby.
And
right.
Which, again, but that means your whole approach is going to come from that spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And who am I to argue? I'm not going to argue with you about that because your goals are different.
Exactly.
Right, and there's no crime in that. I'm not going to, right. Like I said, when I do my freelance talk, like I said, this is what I'm going to say. You're category 1, category 2, or category 3. Categories 1 and 2, this really isn't for you. You might get something out of this, but it's not for you because your goals are different. And I respect that. And I'm not here to tell you different. Right? I'm never going to tell somebody, I've done this for long enough to realize, I'm never going to tell somebody what they should do.
No. I just make a suggestion.
Yeah.
It's come up before, especially with new writers, and they're like, so do you do like 1,000 words a day, or what you kind of write?
Oh, I saw you.
I'm like, no, don't do that.
No.
But what do you mean? Because I read this book on this, I read this book on this, and I'm like, man, like writing is like raising a child. If it was really easy to do, there'd only be one book and we'd all own it.
Yeah.
Right? Like.
No, like straight up, I only use word count, like that's an example of right. Just get him going. Once he gets going, I don't care. Like you might go, I didn't write anything today. Okay, cool.
No, that's fine. I did today as an example. I did not write anything.
Yeah, and me, because my freelancing, I don't write every day either. I don't have the chance. I've been making you the video series, which I directed and produced, and I'm scared to death of because it's the first time I've done that. Mm-hmm. All right, and I'm working on an advertising campaign for another client. I'm just waiting for them to get back to me. That's what I've been spending most of my weeks doing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So much drive.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's great. It's who I am, right? Yeah. That's who I am. But that means I don't always have the time to write. Oh, by the way, I'm also drawing now. I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah. I'm almost confident.
I promise you, hand to God, you are more confident than I am. I learned that about myself a long time ago.
But I think you'll appreciate this. I've approached my drawing like you approach writing. I'm having fun. I'm totally this is not about me being. I want to get better. Don't get me wrong, but it's not about me being. I'm drawing with people who've been published, like work out more than breakfast, like legit work there or Marvel Studios, and I'm like, I'm not close to your league. Right? It's so like glaring. It's like, but that's not what we're doing. We're just having fun, right? And that's. Sometimes you need to. I posted a video not too long ago. I drew Tina's a dog. She illustrates children's book. She decided to punish me. 5-minute drills on writing, on drawing. Like you have to draw something in 5 minutes.
Right.
I screwed up Batman like 30 seconds. So I just do something completely different.
Yeah.
And so there's literally a thing called Not Batman, right? It's not. It's just not. It just ended up. It still looks like a character.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what it was. I screwed up the years like so fast. It was just like, you only have 5 minutes. I can't fix this.
Mm-hmm.
So what do? I had fun. I drew a new character, and but that's the real thing about like for me art. For me, that's much like it's like I've sold some art. I'm a little shocked at that. I've actually sold some art, but at the same time, and I'm drawing a graphic novel. I started doing that. But it's because of where my current level is. It works, right? It's not because I'm a great artist at it. I'm not a great artist, and that's how it works for this particular story. So I say it like that because it's like I'm having fun. It's not. If I ever got like something for it, I'd be the most gobsmacked person in the room, right?
Right.
But this is not the goal. The goal here for me is I can screw up. I can make mistakes. I don't care.
Yeah, you got nothing riding on it.
Yeah.
It's not like if I don't get this right, I'm not going to eat tomorrow.
No. Now, granted, when I'm drawing a graphic novel, there is a little bit more of that, but there's still
Sure, because you're planning on doing something with it. The world.
But it's still not going to be to the same. Doesn't have the same writing goals like me as you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's just like so. I totally get it. Like sometimes you need that space. Like as an artist, you need that space where it's like I can fuck up all I want.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And that's why we have editors as writers. Right. This is competent. Now do something with it. Go.
So you got anything planned this year?
Just.
In terms of about getting published, I mean.
Yeah, so I've got my next book will be out on May 9th. So that's the remaster, redoing of Catching Hell Part 2 Journey.
That's buddy.
Thanks, man. I'm super excited to get it back out again because the Catching Hell series in general has always been very close to my heart, but especially the second one because, like I said, it's a remaster. It was with a previous publisher. For those that don't know the story, the Cole's Notes is Part 1 and Part 2 were with a publisher. That publisher they didn't go under, but they sold the imprint to somebody else. I wasn't super happy with who they sold it to, so I pulled it because they were just going to move it sideways, carte blanche.
Yeah.
And then my previous publisher, Death Dresses Poorly, stepped in and was like,
We'll do it.
We'll do it. You want to do this again? Because I was just going to release it independently. It was already done. So, I had all the artwork and everything for it. But Part 1 was released at least the re-release was done 2 years ago, and my publisher has done a million other things and has a lot of things going on in their world, and I can absolutely respect that because they're a smaller publisher, so they're living a life of publishing and doing stuff just like I'm living a life as a writer. And they said, okay, well, no, we're going to set a date, so it's going to be May 9th, and I've already seen the cover art and the back cover art and all the rest of that stuff.
I gotta make it a point. I'm gonna have to grab one of your books before I disappear. Something to read with me on something to read it. No, there's a few of you I've not read at all. I kind of want to. You're kind of on that list. You, Adria Laycroft, someone I want to read, and and there's a couple other people on that list.
You don't have to read it. I do have an audiobook. I read it for you.
I can't do it. See, because I can't do it because I do this all the time. I can't.
Yeah.
The audiobooks are the last thing I want to do.
I got you.
But hey, people that like audiobooks, go for it.
I do have the audiobook for Death Dresses Poorly, which was my first book, and it was also the one that I talked about that I recorded myself in my master bedroom closet.
Yeah.
And other than that, I will have a story published. The official announcement hasn't come out yet, so I'm going to keep it under my hat, but there is another short story being published in a collection coming out in August.
Congrats.
And thank you. And the publisher right now is taking a look through the last completed manuscript that I have because I passed it off to them, and I think that it's something that's going to go well with them, and I already know that I work well with them. So I don't necessarily know if that'll come out this year, but it is definitely something that I hope that they like it. And then I'll also have the audiobook for my Between Conversations, Tales from the World of Ryujin, because I've finished recording that. I just haven't mastered it yet because life happens.
Yeah, no, I get you. So if people want to find this very, very talented individual, where can they find you?
You can find me at markwatson.ca. So that's marcwatson.ca. Not .com, that's another author, and he's super cool, but he's definitely not me. And you can also find me, I'm pretty active on Twitter, at @WrightWatson. And that's the same for my YouTube channel. I just released a YouTube video about what's happened this last year and what is to come. And just I like to drop little writing bon mots and tidbits. And it's also the same on Hive and the same on Instagram. It's all Wright Watson. And on facebook.com/MarkWroteAbook, all one word.
Alrighty. That, ladies and gentlemen, will be that. So I'm going to have to hit this before they actually kick us out. But anyways, thanks guys.